No, you still gotta nerf it, okay? It's still broken. Now, this is the suggestion that I was pushing to Blizzard. Bruh, that is a huge nerf. This is too strong, and this definitely needed to happen, in my opinion. I still think, after all this time, that that was a big mistake that Blizzard did. Guys, it is time. The new community update, July 16, 2K19. So Blizzard said that they're going to release 2 different StarCraft II community updates, and they're going to like decide which path they want to go. So I have discussed the previous one. It's uploaded on my YouTube channel. If you haven't checked it out and you want to check it out, you can. But we're going to talk about the changes that they're suggesting now, and I guess they're going to either go with the first set of changes or the second set of changes. I'm not sure how that works, but here is the second one. Hey y'all! 2 weeks ago, we announced our plans to propose and test 2 separate sets of possible changes for the next big versus patch. Since our last community update, we've gotten a great deal of constructive feedback from the fruitful community discussions around the first set of changes proposed. We are now ready to introduce proposal number 2. Guys, we're getting proposed once again. Proposed twice in 2 weeks. Which will replace proposal 1 in the testing tab later today. Partly because of generally positive feedback, both possible iterations of the next patch will include the following. Stim pack, upgrade research duration. Wait, what? Because of generally positive feedback, both possible iterations of the next patch will include the following. So they're keeping the stim pack and they're adding new changes, I guess. New upgrade enhanced shockwave, so the ghost EMP thing that we've discussed. Carrier, interceptor build time, and strategic recall. Very nice, Blizzard, very nice. In addition, we saw a bug report circling around various community forums describing how the Infested Terran's infested rockets weapon ignore armor. That's true, that's what happened. If you guys don't know, there's a bug where Infested Terran rockets, which are the anti-air, they actually ignore armor. So if they have 14 damage and you're fighting a battle cruiser, they still do 14 damage. So that's amazing. We plan to roll out a fix for this along with this upcoming patch, but since this bug fix has a similar effect to our initially proposed infested rocket change, we'll be replacing that change with this bug fix. So they're not nerfing Infested Terran, they're just gonna fix the bug. No, you still gotta nerf it, okay? It's still broken. Do I need to go on another rant how this is a free unit and it out DPSs a Hydra versus air? Do I really need to do one of those rants again? Please, it is the Infestor is the most broken unit we've had since this game came out. Please, come on. I mean, this is a nerf, right? Because they're fixing the bug that's been existing for God knows how long, that auto attack ignores armor. But in fact, like, they're still broken. It's 14 damage a shot. That's insane. Like, it is a nerf, but still, it should be nerfed more. It's not gonna do. This is not gonna do anything. I mean, cool, it's gonna have armor. Like, armor is gonna affect, but still, it's too much damage. Like, way too much. Anyway, I'm already tilted. Proposal 2. For Proposal 2, we'll be including the above changes, but removing our most experimental change, including warp, prism, warp, and speed. Removed changes. So they're removing the warp prism thing, and the upgrade for the warp prism that made it warp in from 11 to 4 seconds. Okay. Though this change is a significant redesign, it does a good job at addressing multiple issues in one condensed stroke. Some of these issues include the strength of variety in Protoss Solins and PvZ, the harassment strength of warp prisms, and the overall level power Protoss. In its stead, we'd like to make the following additions. Well, actually, that's not true at all. This does not address the strength of Protoss Warp Prism at all. The strength of Warp Prism is not that it warps units in 4 seconds, it's that it can juggle the units, and in a player that has more than 100 APM, the units are unkillable, whatever units you're juggling, whether it's Archon drop, Immortal drop, whatever drop, you can't kill it. That's the problem. The Warp Pin, I mean, sure, it's good, but that's not what makes the Warp Prism, and that's not why people want the Warp Prism nerfed. It's the range of the pickup, which I've suggested many times before, it should be nerfed. It's insane how much range the Warp Prism pickup has. Added changes. Let's talk about the new stuff now. So these are the things they've just discussed, what they're gonna leave, what they're gonna kick out, and so on. Zerg. Overlord's pneumatized carapace upgrade research costs from 100 to 75. We hope this change will address the difficulty Zerg has in the early game with scouting their Protoss opponents, specifically their ability to differentiate between tech choices and the various immortal-based timings. In our initial feedback from professional players, we heard varied opinions regarding the efficiency of this change, so we want to be very careful that Overlord speed timings don't become omnipresent in either ZVT or ZVP. See, I have mixed feelings about this. I like it, but I also don't like it. I don't like when game is, you know, RNG and you're like, oh, I hope it's this, and then it's that, and you lose the game, right? So I like the change because of that. You can scout and, you know, that's great. The reason why I don't like this is like the fundamental issue with StarCraft II, and this is the fundamental issue that StarCraft II always had, a big problem that I've mentioned many times, I've discussed it many times, which is you're forced to play a certain way depending on what matchup you're playing. So for example, if you're a Protoss and you're playing against Zerg, you are forced to all in at a high level. Why? Because Zerg is way stronger in the late game. It's way stronger. It's extremely favored for Zerg. I mean, look at Serral versus Neeb at WCS, whatever that map's called, that has the rich Vespene geysers. Literally, I mean, Serral killed him with Mass Infestor. That's it. Protosses are forced to all in so that you don't get to that stage. Now, this is the reason why I don't like this change. If you're Terran or Protoss, you have crap win rates against Zerg in the late game, right? Every pro game is like that. And I know there's going to be that one, you know, Bob that's like, well, Maru beat, or Innovation beat Serral 6 months ago, and that is the only game I can provide as proof that Terran can win versus Zerg in the late game. That's great. I can name you probably 300 games since 6 months ago where Terrans got rolled over in the late game. But that's not the point. The point is, Terrans and Protoss want to finish the game before you reach that stage, right? How the game should be, point of view, I agree. This change is good, and Zergs, you should be able to scout what your opponent is doing. But on the other side, if you're Terran or Protoss, you're forced to push, you're forced to all in, but now Zerg has a even cheaper scouting option to see everything you have. Because speed overlords are not like Reaper, right? They're not like Hallucinated Phoenix. Hallucinated Phoenix is very easy to kill if you position your units, right? Reaper is very easy to kill if you position your units, so you can deny the scouting. It's impossible to deny the scouting of a speed overlord. So basically, you're entering a stage now where Zergs will always know what you're doing, and on top of that, they have extremely favored late game. Extremely favored late game. So what gives? Where exactly is the strength of Protoss and Terran? Because right now it's in that surprise effect. The Zerg doesn't know if it's Banshees, if it's Battle Cruisers, if it's Immortals, if it's Charge Lot. So we kind of lose that balance, right? With the balance, even though I disagree with this kind of game design that, oh, you should push or otherwise you're dead because that's just how the game is. I hate that kind of game design. But by doing changes like these, while I agree with them, they're also really bad, because unless you're going to nerf Broodlord Infestor, this change is bullshit. Honestly, it's bullshit. And fixing the Infested Terran bug is not going to fix this problem. If you have a, let's say this is early game ZVP and ZVT, and let's say the line is, you know, the middle. So Zerg is weaker in that part, right, in the early to mid game, but then late game it's like all the way up. So then if you bring this up, you're not balancing anything. You just made Zerg stronger, right? Because you just buffed whatever Zerg's lacking without nerfing what the other two races are struggling against. That's what I disagree with. So if Blizzard came out and said, okay, we are going to nerf Infested Terrans to like 10 damage because it's a free unit, and we're going to nerf Neural range by 1, and they're doing this change, I'm all up for that. That's great. Make it even 50-50. I am all up for that, right? But because there's no change in the late game, I don't agree with this change. I just don't. And on top of that, they're about to nerf the Protoss early to mid-game pushes as well. So you're actually double nerfing Protoss in the only part of the game where it's viable and good against Zerg. I think that's not good. Yeah, if they would fix the late game, sure, this is a great change. Right now, no. Protoss, War Prism. Cost increased from 200 to 250 minerals. The War Prism is perceived as a powerful unit with a lot of utility, providing both harassment and all-in opportunities. We believe this cost increase will more accurately reflect the unit's power level. Honestly, like, War Prism is insanely good, so I don't see any problem with costing 250. Like, guys, come on. It can juggle units, it can warp units, it can carry units. And it's only a mineral unit. I mean, I don't think this change necessarily fixes anything. It just makes the Prism more expensive. I mean, this is one of those changes where Zergs and Terrans will be like, oh, okay, cool. Are Protoss gonna use less of the War Prism harassment? Not really, no. It's still extremely good unit and it's still going to be used, but it is a nerf, right, at the end of the day. War Prism pickup range decreased from 6 to 5. Now, this is the suggestion that I was pushing to Blizzard, because they were unsure which way to go, how to go about the War Prism. Because the War Prism can be nerfed in many ways, right? You know, movement speed, pickup range, cost, war pin, right? Many things. And this is the one that I thought is the best, and this is the one that I thought is the problem with the War Prism. Right here. I 100% agree with this. Like, I don't think anyone, unless you're Protoss and you're extremely biased, is going to disagree with this change. Even in PvP, War Prisms are obnoxious. We view War Prism range pickup as one of the most positive additions to Legacy of the Void. I do agree with that. It provides for a lot of entertainment and cool moments, but too much is too much, right? It provides for many testing, skill testing micro opportunities, encourages Protoss to poke at their opponents without overly committing their army, and allows top players the ability to distinguish themselves. On the other hand, the large pickup range can be frustrating to play against, true, and contributes to the potency of Immortal All-Ins, very true. As such, we think there's room to adjust the opponent's ability to interact with the Prism and the level of risk the Prism must put itself in while it juggles its cargo. Exactly. You can't just have gain, right? If you have a unit in any RTS game, you can't just have positives. There has to be a counter, a negative to it. So War Prism juggling, right now, just have positives because it's unreachable. By nerfing it to 5, suddenly the queens can hit it. And that changes a lot of things. You can juggle, but you can't juggle forever. It's not free anymore. Let's just put it that way. Our primary concern with the suggested change is in the current landscape is that it could potentially impact PvZ macro openings more than it would PvZ all-in openings. I'm guessing they're talking about the Archon drops. I mean, I nothing else to say. Like, I agree 100% with this. This should be done, had been done a long time ago, in my opinion. Ooh. Oh! Wait, Zealot charge? Additional impact damage decreased from 8 to 0. After researching charge, the Zealot will still retain the ability to always hit a flank target at least once. Bruh. That is a huge nerf. Wait a minute. That is a huge nerf. So guys, if you don't know, right now when you get charged, when the Zealot gets in the melee range of the target, it deals 8 damage plus it auto attacks. That is actually huge. This is insanely huge nerf. 8 damage is a lot, guys. A lot. I've always said this. Having a nerf or a buff on a tier 1 unit is insane. Because any change you make, it's like, if you nerf Colossus by 2 damage, right? You're nerfing an army that has 3-4 Colossus. If you nerf Zealot charge damage, you're nerfing 30 plus Zealots, because Protoss is very, very Zealot heavy in every single matchup. This is actually a huge change. Zealots contribute greatly to the power level of Protoss in all matchups, whether they're used in direct engagements or as part of harassment role in combination with War Prisms. In both these roles, we believe Zealots might be slightly too powerful relative to their cost and control required to use them. Our intention with this change is both to lower the frontal power of the Protoss army and to slightly diminish the strength of Zealot harassment throughout the game. In PvZ, this change will also allow unupgraded Zerglings the ability to take additional hits from charge loss without +1 ground weapons, allowing them to be much more resilient to charge-based timings. It would also restore the relationship between weapon upgraded Zealots and carapace upgraded Zerglings, an interaction that dates back to original StarCraft. Okay, that's true. So, if you guys don't know what it is, Zealots with +1 take 1 less hit to kill Zergling, but then if Zerg gets +1 carapace, it takes 3 hits again, if I remember correctly. But with charge and legacy of the void dealing damage on impact, that is negated, and you two-shot it no matter if the Zerg has carapace. So you might see Zergs go double Evo Chamber in PvZ again to get, you know, melee and to get carapace upgrades. Our general rationale for breaking apart the aforementioned changes in Proposal 2 from Proposal 1 is that we believe they present two distinct approaches to addressing many of the same issues. For the charge specifically, we believe not only that it has overlap with the Prism warp and speed change, but the severity of both changes combined would also be too extreme for a mid-year patch. As this change is one to a core Protoss unit that's used in all phases of the game in all matchups, we plan to be extra attentive to how it plays. If it does end up going live, we'll careful monitor, okay? Just how significantly each Protoss matchup changes in their respective mid-games. I don't know. And that's it? That's only the 4 changes? Wait, so I'm not understanding. Are they keeping these? And they're just adding these onto the second test patch thing? Is that how that works? Alright. Oof. I was not expecting this. Honestly, when they made a change to the Zealot doing damage when they charge, I thought it was broken, right? And I think it is. But at this point, you kind of need it, right? Like, that's what the game's evolved, because you also balanced other units because of the strength of the Zealots. So I feel like if you would nerf this, you would have to... I mean, this is a huge nerf, guys. This is not... I don't know. I don't know about... I don't think this change should go through. I think this is way too much. Another thing I noticed Blizzard does in StarCraft II, and that's something that always bothered me. Every time Zerg players whine about something, Blizzard comes out and always buffs the Zerg, but also nerfs the race, the other race, right? So it's like, it's a double nerf for the race, actually. It's not just one fix, right? And I never understood that. Like, for example, Unit A is strong against Race A, right? So then Blizzard not only buffs Race A, but also nerfs the Unit A at the same time. And I never understood that. They always double nerf things. So, I mean, this is like quad nerf on the Protoss. I don't know. So, okay. So I'll quickly go which one I would keep. Stimpack, I discussed this. It only promotes 2 base all-ins. I don't think this is anything like... oh, now I'm going to open 3 racks, or, I mean, maybe people will open 3 racks, but I have a feeling people are just going to do 2 base all-ins, because the Stimpack here is not the important part that you get it 21 seconds faster. You get your combat shields 21 seconds faster. That's the real thing here. So your 2 base push is 21 seconds faster, which is another warp in round. And I think people are going to do that instead of opening 3 racks. Because, I mean, if you're a top player, ask yourself, why would you open 3 racks when you can do a 2 base all-in that is already really strong, but now it arrives 21 seconds earlier? The EMP, I haven't tested it, but I've heard a lot of positive things from other people saying how it's a lot easier to EMP the Protoss army, EMP the Templars, but this also helps with EMPing the Infestors, which is actually what I think this should be, you know, for. Carrier, I 100% agree with this, and I think anyone with, you know, straight face is going to say the same thing. Carriers are terrible now, they're in terrible state. So this is the least that the carrier deserves as far as buff goes. We'll see if that's going to be enough to make it playable, but I'm up for carrier buffs. Next is recall. Absolutely needed to happen. See, this is the funny thing. Protoss players don't realize how big of a problem this is, because they don't play against it as much in a way that Terrans do specifically, or Zergs, right? If there's any Terran in the chat, I actually had a game recently in PvP. I swear every time I sent the War Prism, the guy had recall. And I honestly felt like I just dropped and he had recall again. So this is too strong, and this definitely needed to happen in my opinion. Like, this shouldn't be an ability that you spam. But, because you're increasing the time that much, what I would do is I would make Nexus Recall free. So I would make it so it doesn't cost energy, but the cooldown is 130 seconds now. So you're nerfing it, but you're nerfing what you're supposed to nerf, which is the recall cooldown, but you're buffing it in another way. So that way you keep both parties happy, right? Protoss can be like, well, it's 130 seconds, but at least now I don't need to spend Chrono Boost energy on it, right? So it's like, That's what I mean. When you nerf something, you can kind of help it a little bit at the same time, right? You don't need to flat out just nerf it. I mean, that's just my opinion, right? So that's what I would like to see here. Again, I don't know about Stim Pack. I'm not too excited. I think it's a boring change at the end of the day. Why not play around with something like giving Ghost Stim Pack, but making it half as efficient? I think that's way more interesting, and it provides people to try out different unit comps and different unit compositions, whether it's early, mid, or late game. But just giving Stim faster, like Ghost with Stim would probably be broken. That's why I said give Ghost Stim, but reduce the effect of the Stim by half, right? So it's not as powerful as it is on Marines and Marauders. It's weird how many abilities the Ghost will have. I mean, you can just use it with Baya, right? It's not like you're gonna use it specifically. Infested Terran, I agree that they're nerfing fixing the bug. That's great. I think neural is a huge problem in PvZ. Again, guys, please, and I know someone from Blizzard will watch this. Please look at NERFED versus Herald. That game, guys, what's the map name? It was game number 3, I think. Please watch that game. That is the reason why no Thunderbird. That's right. Thank you. That is the reason why no Protoss goes late game. Infestors are utterly and completely broken. Like, they're insanely broken. As a Protoss, Terran has some counters, right? You can, I don't know, like siege things, range liberators, ghosts. Like, it's hard, but it's possible. Protoss can't do shit. You literally can't do shit against them. The neural range is insane. The fact that they can neural from underneath means that they're not colliding with ground units. Actually, maybe they do. Never mind. The point is, you need, like, I don't even know what kind of engagement you need to deal with infestors taking your carriers, because their range is so high that in order for carrier, like, let's say you mass carriers, right? When the Zerg starts neuraling, they also poop the infested Terrans. You actually need to go way closer to the infestor to try and kill it. But by doing that, infested Terrans just crap on your carriers. Which, again, it's a free unit, and this should never happen in an RTS game. A free unit beating a tier 3 unit that is extremely expensive should never happen. In reality, what should happen is if the Zerg use infested Terrans, the carriers should walk through them. They should lose like 5 interceptors. They should walk through them. Free units should never beat any other unit in a straight up fight. That is ridiculous. Tempests are trash, because if you mess Tempests, then what's going to happen is the Zerg is just going to get Vipers and rapid fire all your Tempest in. Fungal on interceptors. If you guys don't know, there's a thing in PvZ that pro Zergs do. Whenever Protoss fires or shoots with carriers, all the interceptors go out in a line, and that's something you can't control, right? Unless you specifically target fire with each carrier to each unit. So the interceptors move at the same rate, at the same direction, and the Zerg fungals them twice and kills all the interceptors. And then interceptors take 11 seconds each one to build, and by then you're dead. Can you realistically look at several matches in this? Is miles better than the vast majority of players? Yeah, I can. Yeah. Because that happens in top 100 GM, top 50 GM, top 10 GM, Serial Neeb. It happens everywhere. It happens in GSL. Find me a player that consistently beats Zerg in the late game, and I will eat this microphone right now. You can't find one player in the world. I can find you 1,000 players that will demolish every Protoss in the late game, assuming equal skill level. And if that's the case, then there's a problem. Something that a lot of people bring up is, whenever I talk about ZVT late game, people always say, aha, well, remember that game, Serial versus Innovation, 6 months ago? That doesn't mean anything. Why? Because having one game to leech on and say, oh, there you go, that's how you do it, is not balanced. That's not how balance works. Because if that's how balance worked, we wouldn't have this patch, because Serial's winning tournaments. So why are we patching things, right? We're not patching things just because one player is unable to do something. We're patching things on the general but top level. Zerg is extremely favored against Protoss in the late game. That's just how it is. I've seen people complain that, well, at low level, carriers destroy Zergs. Yes, because there's room for the Zergs in the lower leagues to improve. So because you need to use infestors, they're spellcasters with multiple spells, they're hard to use, right? But that's the reason why the Zergs are losing in lower league is not because of balance, is because of their skill level. There's no skill level for Protosses to reach to beat infestors, because infestors are just better than whatever Protoss has. They're just better. They counter whatever Protoss has. There's no unit that actually beats Infestor from Protoss point of view. They all trade poorly, and even if they trade well, the Zerg can just neural them. If that happens, whenever there's a unit in a game, whether it's StarCraft II or an RTS game, if there's a moment in that game where you're like, if I just get to this unit, I will win every game, that needs to be nerfed straight away, because that's broken. And if everyone does the same thing, which is, let's just get to that late game and we're good, then there's an issue. Why do you think Zerg players are whining about 2 base all-ins? Because that's the only place they can like lose like this. Because they know if the game reaches late game, they're good to go. Like, how do you lose? High Templars? Okay, show me a game where Protoss beats Mass Infestor with High Templars at a high level. I'll be here all night, baby. You can link me that. But I feel like you're gonna struggle pretty hard finding that. I like how Blizzard talks about the bug like it's nothing, but it's struggling the game for 2 years. Yeah. Mareka actually asked me because I told her about Cyril Neeb game, and she asked me, well, can't you just... She actually made a good point, right? Can't you just go with a War Prism and kill the Zerg's main base because their army is immobile? Yeah, you can. That's actually a very good idea. That's what Protosses do. They go around, they kill the whole Zerg main base, because in a lot of these games where it's like split map, PvZ, late game, the Zerg loses the main base. But it doesn't matter. Why? Because, okay, cool, you killed Spawning Pool, right? You killed, Greater Spire, you killed Hive. Zerg remakes on the middle of the map, and then the real problem strikes, which is you have to fight the army, and you can't kill the army. That's the real issue. So you can clean up the Zerg bases, right? The main, the natural that are mined out, but you're gonna have to face the army, which you're not gonna beat. In Neeb versus Cyril game, which again, please watch it. Neeb had 200 army carrier High Templar with Archons. Cyril had Mass Infestor, Broodlords, and like 10 Hydras. What ended up happening is they fought. Neeb got his carriers taken. The Infested Terrans were spammed in masses. Storms were dropped, didn't do anything. Cyril dropped like 20-30 supply. Neeb is massively just sinking in supply. He had 30 gateways. He warps in mass Stalker with Blink, right? Because you can't warp Zealots because there's Broodlords. He warps in like 20 to 30 Stalkers, loses them, warps another round of Stalkers, loses those two, and he's still fighting against the same army from Cyril. And Cyril wins the game. Like, guys, come on. That's... No, that's terrible. That's terrible, and that should be nerfed. That is insane. Anyway, this I agree with, that they removed. I didn't think this was a good change, so I'm glad they removed this. Again, I agree with this, but then this doesn't make sense. Because this is what I was talking about. When Blizzard makes a change, they buff something, and then they slam down the thing that they buffed the race against. And I don't know why that is. What I would do is I would take these 4 changes. I mean, these 4 changes nerf the same thing, right? The War Prism Immortal All-In. Because they're literally affecting, all those things are affecting the same thing. So instead of putting all of these in, what I would do is I would actually just do, for example, these 2, right? Increase the War Prism to 250, because I think that would probably happen no matter what, because it's extremely powerful unit, and put the range to 5. Remove this right here, and remove this. Don't put this in. And then wait a month, and then see what happens. You don't need to release patches every 6 months. You can change it after a month if it's not enough. I've been playing this game for 9 years. I am at decent level with all 3 races. I 100% believe that if they just did these 2 changes, the Immortal All-Ins would not necessarily be terrible, but they would be less powerful. People would still do them, and people should still do them. But if you do all of these things together, you're removing the immortal all-ins completely. No one's gonna do an immortal all-in if this shit's in. Like, I mean, Zealots are gonna do way less damage. Pickup range is nerfed, the cost is increased, and then you give easier scouting to the Zerg. Why would anyone do the immortal Prism Zealot all-in, right? But if you just remove these two things, that's still possible. At the same time, nerfing what you aimed for. And it's not a huge nerf. I mean, this is a huge nerf. The warp is the pickup range. But you're not killing the build. It's still possible. It's just less powerful and gives the Zerg more counterplay. But at the same time, if you go through these changes, let's be realistic, right? If these changes went through, what is Protoss supposed to do against Zerg at the highest level? Like, actually, what are they supposed to do? And by the way, I'm not defending the Protoss Immortal Zealot all-in. I do think it's extremely strong, and I do think it should be nerfed. I think it's extremely strong against Zerg. But if they don't have it, what does the Protoss do? And that is the real question. And that's why I said, if you nerf this, the only point where Protosses are going for, which is these timings, you have to nerf the Zerg late game or help the Protoss in the late game. Otherwise, you're just completely killing the matchup. That's just how it is. The goal is for every Protoss to just sit there and defend for 30 minutes every game and dying valiantly every time for people to say, wow, that was a great game. Yeah, every time I see a PvZ late game, the moment the Infestors start coming out, I'm like, yeah, that's it. That's over. I mean, you can see people in Twitch chat know as well. People start spamming, oh, lol, Infestors, game's done. And then Protoss is just like running around like a headless chicken, trying to find an opening. You know, they kill a base here and there. You know, they kill a couple of Hydras. They do a Prism drop in the main. They snipe a Greater Spire. Meanwhile, there's another Spire already. You know, they're doing all these things. And then in the production tab, you see +5 Infestors. 10 Infestors in production. 5 Infestors in production. And then you look at the army and it's just mass Infestor. And you know that that's it. GG. Another thing that bothers me actually quite a bit. A lot of people still consider me a Terran player. I don't consider myself a Terran player anymore. I know a lot of people think that I hate Zerg. I don't. I do think Zerg late game is the strongest, but I also at the same time do think that Zerg is extremely hard to play in the mid to late game against, or early to mid game against Terran Protoss. And I do think Zerg is having extremely hard time in against Protoss all-ins. Again, and I do agree they need help there. But if you help them there, you need to nerf the late game. You cannot have a race that is just really good in all parts of the game if your game is made so that, well, Protoss late game is just so strong, you can't nerf Terran and Protoss mid game. That's just not how it's gonna work. Another thing that bothered me quite a bit, again, this is where I was trying to go at. Blizzard nerfed Mass Raven. I still think after all this time that was a big mistake that Blizzard did. Ravens had how much? 120 damage for Secret Miss, 125. Was that broken? Yeah. Should have been nerfed? Yes. But they removed the Raven from the game in the late game, right? If they kept the Raven at like 50 damage, Terran would still have a late game AoE, just like Protoss and Zerg have. But Protoss and the Zergs were whining that they can't split. I mean, they basically couldn't split their units. That's what it came down to. Now, what bothers me still to this day is Blizzard nerfed the Ravens completely because this is specifically what they said. They didn't want people to mass Ravens, to mass a spellcaster in order to win the games. And they didn't want that to be the focus point. They didn't want the Terran to enter the game and to say, well, I'm going to survive till Ravens, and that's their game plan. And what do we have right now from Zerg? That exactly same thing. They're massing Infestors. Their whole game plan is to get the Infestor Broodlord. That's literally their whole game plan. And they're very similar, right? They have a damage spell that also slows. The Secret Missile did slow, but it dealt more damage. You have the free unit, the Auto Turret, and the Infested Terran. And then the third ability is kind of like support ability. I don't know what to call it, like Neural and PDD. So why was Raven nerfed? Because it was masked, but Infestor is not. That doesn't make any sense to me. They should get the same treatment. They should nerf the Infestors just like they nerfed Raven, because it only makes sense. Another thing they could have done to the Raven is they could have made damage not stack. That's it. They could have made Seeker Missiles do 120 damage, like Parasitic Bomb or like Fungal Growth over time. And that's a fix. Terran still has late game AoE, but you can't just explode the whole army. And instead Blizzard nerfed the Raven completely, which again, up to this day, I still completely disagree. I think it was a terrible change. And now we see the same thing from Zerg, so I don't know. But yeah, I'll end that. I'm ranting quite a lot, so I'll stop there. Yeah, I don't think these 4 changes should go through together. Maybe like this one and then the War Prism pickup range, maybe these 2. This seems like such an extreme nerf. This would mess up PvT extremely. I mean, Zealots are extremely important in PvT. This would be a huge nerf to Protoss in general as a race against Zerg and Terran. I do think Zealot roundbuys are strong, but I feel like this is maybe a bit too much. Yeah. What can Zerg do against Protoss death balls without current Infestors? Well, I didn't say remove the Infestors, I said nerf them. So I don't think the free units should deal 14 damage a shot. That's ridiculous. They should do way less. Like, I'm not saying... keep the Fungal. Fungal is extremely powerful. Keep the Fungal. Nerf Neural range by 1. It's ridiculous what the range of Neural is. Once they Neural, you can't touch them. They're so far back, you can't engage them. And then nerf the Infested Terrans. Infestor won't be useless. It will just be not broken anymore. Casually explaining the best StarCraft being one-on-one is great because when you win, you did it yourself. When you lose, it's because of balance. Maybe if you're Gold League, but if you're playing top level or watching top level StarCraft and every player from a specific race is losing to the exactly same way to any player from the other race, and there's an issue. So yeah. I don't know. I mean, sure, some of these are good, but yeah, that is my opinion. I would love to hear your guys' opinion in Twitch chat right now because I can actually pay attention to the chat right now. I don't know. Look, I'm playing random. I don't care about balance at the end of the day. I mean, I do, but I don't care as in it doesn't affect my, tournament winnings. It doesn't affect my pro gaming career because I'm not a pro gamer. So I don't care in that way. But I don't like where the patch is going. I think, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I'll be uploading this on YouTube for you guys on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to hear your guys' opinion as well.